when you're in those episodes and you're having PTSD and you're in that mindset, you're not thinking about resources. You're not thinking about how to get help. You're thinking about the instant thing that's happening to you in this moment right now. I'm having a PTSD episode right now at 5:48 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm not thinking about where do I go next. I'm thinking about how to get through this next 30 seconds of my life.
That was Elliott McKenzie, a Marine and true warrior. He learned to quiet his symptoms of PTSD with music. His story next. You're listening to 21 Gun Podcast, a show by veterans for veterans. What's your story? You joined the Marines 5 days after graduating high school. So take me back to that moment when you were putting your name on the line, when you were writing Uncle Sam a blank check for your life.
So my upbringing was middle class. I was raised by a single mother who adopted 3 kids. I was one of the kids that she adopted, and she raises all on her own. She was a full-time nurse, and we grew up in a city called Cerritos in California, which is a middle to upper middle class area in Southern California. In high school, I wasn't exactly your typical A and B student. And so I knew that college was not going to be an option for me. And then I wanted to do something that would make my family proud. I liked challenging things. I played football. I was in band. I was very physically fit. I liked to do things that presented a challenge to me. And so when I decided to go into the military and I was deciding which branch to serve in, the branch that stuck out the most to me was the Marine Corps, because they kept preaching about how everything you get, you earn. You earn the title Marine. Everything is a challenge. This is the hardest branch to go into. And so that attracted me to the Marine Corps. I watched 9/11 happen on the news that morning. When I saw the terror in those people's eyes, it made me want to fight back. And that was another reason why I think I chose the Marine Corps, because I wanted to go into a branch where I felt like I would be in the front lines and I'd have a chance to actually go kick some ass. And the Marine Corps and the Army were my first choices. And so the Marine Corps definitely stood out for those reasons as well.
What was your job in the Marine Corps?
So I was an 0311 rifleman, and my secondary MOS was an 8152, which is a Marine Corps Security Forces Marine.
Let's talk about service in general. And the reason why I asked about, when you joined was because did you have a large number of classmates that enlisted at the time?
No, there were actually only, I want to say 4 people from my entire class, my graduating class in high school, that joined the military, and I was one of them. So it was a very small amount of people.
So let's consider that not many of us are joining out of high school, and you always hear the story of someone who's given the ultimatum to join the Marines or join the Army or whatever, or go to prison. Well, when you hear stories like that, you start thinking that if you joined, well, you must have done something wrong to screw it up. Do you think that this is a part of why civilians don't relate to us? They see us, instead of as ex-warriors, more like ex-cons.
No, it doesn't help the narrative at all to joining the military. I think that's one of the things that we need to change, and one of the things that needs to be reversed. And I believe one of the better ways nowadays, post 9/11, that we can go about promoting the military and saying that the military is a good decision is college. Because one thing that I've run into is, and that I've noticed a lot since I've been out, is civilians complaining because they're in debt, because they went to school right after high school, they went to college right after high school, got a bachelor's, master's, whatever they got. And now they're thousands and thousands of dollars in debt from loans from going to college. My solution to that is join the military after high school, get an honorable discharge, use the post 9/11 GI Bill to go to college, and now you have a free bachelor's degree, and you're not in debt anymore. So nowadays, joining the military is actually the smarter decision, because if you're one of those, even if you're one of those students who got straight A's and B's in high school and you got scholarships, guess what? You still got to pay those scholarships back. So how about you get straight A's and B's in high school, join the military for one contract, 4 years, 6 years, whatever branch of service you go into, get out with an honorable discharge, and then get paid to go to that same college you could have went to. Go to Harvard, go to UCLA, go to whatever school you want to go to. Just now you don't have any debt. Now you're being paid a monthly stipend to get that same exact bachelor's degree you were going to get when you were in high school, that you were planning on getting when you were in high school. The only difference is now you've done it the smart way, and not only is your tuition covered, but you get paid a salary to attend college. Or you could have went straight in after high school into college, and now you're in debt when you graduate. So I think joining the military as far as college goes is the smart way to go now, because now you save yourself and your possible parent, your parents, whoever's going to end up paying that tuition, thousands and thousands of dollars.
Plus, it's so, like, you tell an 18-year-old, here, pay $50,000 a year for the next 4 years to basically set yourself up for what you're going to do for the rest of your life. When I was 18, I had no clue what I wanted to do. At least if you go into the military, and it sounds kind of paternalistic, but it is paternalistic. You know, they'll put you where you're showing your skills. And let's say you're good with your hands. You might get into engineers, or you might get into the medical corps. You might fly. Who knows? But when you get out, a 24-year-old is in a hell of a lot better position to make decisions about the rest of his life, especially one that had the responsibilities that you face when you're in the military.
Exactly. Yeah, you're older, you're more mature, you know yourself better, you know what you want to do with your life more, because you had 4 to 6 or 8 or X amount of years to mature and grow. Mm-hmm. So now you know more about what direction that you want to go in for the rest of your life. And
then if you're worried about, you know, I want to go to have the college experience, the parties and stuff, if you don't think the military doesn't know how to party, you haven't been talking to the right people.
Yeah, well, that's one thing that I don't think is really advertised about the military. The military doesn't go out and advertise about all the crazy shit that happens while you're in service when you're a 21-year-old, you know, and you're out there drinking at the bars and having fun just like a college student does. They don't advertise that. So I think a lot of young high school kids don't see that. They don't know about it. Yeah. They don't think that they're going to be able to do that, because when they think of the military, they think of all the discipline and the lack of freedom. Mm-hmm. They don't think of the fact that once you graduate boot camp and you're in your job, you have more freedom than a lot of people realize.
Yeah. Yeah, plus it's not all combat, and maybe in the future it won't all be combat, because I can tell you there were times where Uncle Sam gave us the keys to a C-130 with two 20-year-old loadmasters, a 22-year-old or 23-year-old co-pilot, a 26-year-old pilot, and a 26-year-old navigator, and said, go to Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember flying one day, and I looked around, and I'm like, we're just a bunch of friends in a multi-million-dollar aircraft cruising around. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah. The responsibility you get is insane.
Sure. Yeah. So, man, we're cruising along here. Let's get into your time in the Marine Corps. Where did you serve and all that stuff?
So I went in the Marine Corps in 2003. My primary MOS was 0311 infantry. That's what I went in thinking that I was going to do. And then I got to boot camp, and one of my drill instructors came up to me and he said, hey, you've been selected for this thing called presidential support duty. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but he told me it was like a special job that only certain Marines were allowed to do. And he said, you have to report to this classroom tomorrow at 1300 to get a brief about what it is and go through their processing. And I said, okay. So I go to this class, and it basically turns out that 1% of all Marines are selected to basically, in a nutshell, help protect the President of the United States at the White House in DC and at the presidential retreat and at other locations around the country. Some of them, you get selected for different locations. Some of them work alongside the Secret Service. Some of them work at the White House. Some of them work at the presidential retreat. And so I got selected for that job, and that job became my B billet. And in order to do that job, I had to be put in Marine Corps Security Forces, because that job is a part of Marine Corps Security Forces. And so I went to Marine Corps Security Forces school after graduating from boot camp, and then also the School of Infantry, which is infantryman school, where I learned how to do my primary MOS. So I went to security forces school, graduated from security forces school, and then I immediately got stationed in Virginia, and I was placed with a fleet anti-terrorism security team, or a FAST team. And the way you could think of that is kind of like a Marine Corps SWAT team.
Okay.
What they do, Marine Corps FAST teams are basically like SWAT teams that are trained to go into buildings and retake the buildings back from our enemies, for instance, like an embassy or something like that. Mm-hmm. So they specialize in CQB. They specialize in indoor combat, close quarters battle. So I did a lot of that training with them. I was with them for about 6 to 7 months. And then from there, I transitioned over to Washington, D.C., where I did presidential support duty for a little under 2 years. And then from there, I went to my primary MOS at Camp Pendleton, and I was with 1st Battalion, 5th Marines as an 0311 rifleman. With 1-5, I went to Ramadi, Iraq in 2005, and then I went to Okinawa, Japan in 2006. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2007 and transitioned into the Army Reserves in 2008. And then from 2008 until 2011, I served in the Army Reserves as a 38 Bravo, which is a civil affairs specialist. The reason why a lot of people ask me, why'd you go into the Army? The reason why, the main and the honest reason why, is 2 things. I actually wanted to go back in the Marine Corps because, like we were talking about, I missed it and I had that itch to get back in. So I walked into a Marine Corps recruiter's office. And at the time, I had gotten tattoos on my forearms. At the time, the Marine Corps had a tattoo policy that basically says if you're prior service, you can't have tattoos on your forearms because we wear our sleeves up. And so when I walked into the recruiter's office, they were like, nope, you can't come back in because you got those tattoos. The only way you can come back in is if you get them removed.
That's crazy.
And I wasn't about to get them removed. So I was like, all right, shit. Luckily, the Army recruiter's office was literally the next door down, and he overheard the conversation because we were in the hallway. And he walks over to me and he was like, well, have you ever thought about the Army? Because we'll take you with tattoos because the Army doesn't, at the time, they do now, but at the time they wore long sleeves only. They didn't roll their sleeves up. So they didn't have a tattoo policy as regarding what where your tattoos could be on your arms. And so, hey, they were like, we'll give you a $15,000 signing bonus since you're prior service Marine Corps. And we can take you right now because, we're looking for soldiers. And I was like, hey, I need the money and you guys will take me. And I need to get back in the military because I miss it. And so if I can't go in the Marine Corps, then I guess the Army is the next step down. So I signed the contract. And then I ended up in the Army Reserves for 3 years.
So, Ramadi, I remember that. That was, like you said, 2005. I remember trying to remember the name of the airfield that we used to support around there. But that was pretty hot area.
Yeah, it was really hot back then. 16 of our Marines got killed. I believe 7 of the battalion's Marines before us got killed. And then the battalion that came in after us, I believe it was in the 20s, like 25 or something like that, of their Marines got killed. So it was a lot of KIAs over there.
Were you a civilian at all between Marine Corps and Army? And for how long?
I technically got out of the Marine Corps in March of 2007, and I didn't join the Army until December of 2008. And so I was a civilian for almost 2 years.
Okay.
So a little over a year and a half, I believe. So I went to school. I got accepted to this school called Musicians Institute in Hollywood, California, which is actually why I got out of the Marine Corps, was to pursue my dreams in music. And then I got out of there about 6 months later, and I was pursuing my dreams in music and working different jobs like security, this and that, basic jobs that a lot of veterans do when they get out of the military. And then I was struggling with PTSD for a long time from 2007 to 2015. So that was in the beginning of all that. So when I got out of the Marine Corps from 2007 all the way till I was out of the Army, way after, I was struggling with PTSD. So that was a big part of my life back then too, was trying to figure out how to deal with my PTSD. And I was going through that dark phase.
Were you having symptoms when you were in active duty?
No, I didn't have any symptoms on active duty as far as I know.
Okay.
My symptoms didn't start to show up until about 5 or 6 months after I got out of the Marine Corps.
What were your first symptoms?
My main symptoms that showed up at first were anger problems. So I would snap at people. I was very irritable. I was very easily triggered. If somebody accidentally bumped into me, a stranger in a grocery store, I get pissed off. I would start fights and arguments with people for no reason. I would overreact to things. So I was like somebody who had an extremely short fuse. So it was very, very easy to piss me off and get me going.
Did you have any outlet? Did anyone say, hey, go to the VA, or did you have any help, or were you just kind of just dealing with it?
I was just dealing with it. At the time, I didn't have any outlet. I didn't know how to get it out of me. I didn't know about counseling. I didn't really know about the services that the VA offered. My issues didn't start until after I got out. So I'm not too familiar with what it's like to be on active duty and have PTSD and be dealing with it. But I imagine it's pretty bad because, like you said, there's probably a lot of veterans like yourself or active duty guys and girls who get into situations where their symptoms can cause them to lose their job, lose their career, lose their clearance, whatever might happen. And then they feel guilty because they're losing what they have because of their problems. And so a lot of them don't talk about them.
So you had mentioned, the aimlessness, or not, I don't think you said aimlessness. I can't remember your words exactly, but that moment.
Locked.
Yeah. So tell me about your experiences of you're out, and what do you do next?
You don't know. And that's the fucked up part, is you don't know what's next. You don't know where to go. Because as of right now and as of back then, there's no guidance system. It's not like a guided missile where you get out of the military and you start to experience problems and there's a group of people to pick you up and tell you how to get the help you need. You kind of have to figure it out on your own, because TAPS doesn't really do much. They teach you how to write a very basic resume. They teach you the basics about how to be a civilian, and then they throw you to the wilderness and they expect you to succeed. And a lot of that stuff in TAPS doesn't include how to get help if you notice that you might have PTSD, depression, anxiety, whatever you might have. They tell you the basics about the VA, but they don't tell you about all the resources that are out there. And so when you're in those episodes and you're having PTSD and you're in that mindset, you're not thinking about resources. You're not thinking about how to get help. You're thinking about the instant thing that's happening to you in this moment right now. I'm having a PTSD episode right now at 5:48 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'm not thinking about where do I go next. I'm thinking about how to get through this next 30 seconds of my life. And so when that 30 seconds is over and you're back to somewhat normal, you don't even know where to begin, because like I said, there's no resources. There's no, there's tunnel vision, but it's not the right tunnel vision. It's the tunnel vision that puts you in the places where PTSD attacks you. But it's not like they hand you a full packet of paper when you get out with all the resources in that packet that say, if you have this, here's all the resources in your area where you're going to end up. If you're moving back to this state, this city, these are the resources in your area back home where you're going to go when you get out of the military. None of that exists. You know about the VA, but you don't know where your nearest VA hospital is. You don't know how to get signed up for VA services. You don't know anything, so you're lost.
When I got out, at the time, they gave me a 10%, whatever that was, 10% disability rating, and then that was it. It was like, thanks for playing. I got out and I was like, well, where do I go for medical help? And they said, I don't know, go to the VA. So I go to the VA, and you walk in and you say, yeah, I'm here because I was diagnosed with anxiety and PTSD, and I want to get this under. They put you, I kid you not. Do you know how at the time, I don't know if they do this anymore, at the time to establish care, you had to go to the emergency room as a psychological problem. And when you go into an emergency, I work in medicine now. If you come in as a psych problem, you're in a padded room until they clear you and you're okay to go. And it's like, I'm fine. I'm here to establish care. It was the most bizarre. I was there all day, and I had gone, like, I had all my notes and everything. I was there to establish care, and they put you in an emergency room, and you have to get evaluated before they're going to say it's okay for you to go. And that experience was enough for me that I was like, no, I'm not playing this game. I'm not getting involved with the VA. It just put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that's actually very similar to the way that I got introduced to the VA when I got out, because I had a very angry incident that happened with a family member, and I ended up getting put in handcuffs by the police. And the police officer, that the sergeant that responded to the call, was an Army veteran, and he knew about the VA already, and he was informed. So he said, I'm going to take you to the VA, and I'm going to see if they can help you because I think you have PTSD. So he drove me over to the VA, and they put me on a 5150 hold for 3 days in the psych ward. And that's how I got introduced to the VA and started getting services.
That is such a broken system right there. Again, I don't know if that's still the way it is, but come on. I mean, the fact that you were taken there in handcuffs. I mean, can you think of any other combat injury where they're like, well, you know, you're so damaged that we got to protect you from yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And then, I mean, you take the position of an infantryman or any sort of operations. Automatically, if that's your job, you are a person that runs towards gunfire, right? You're a person that runs towards burning buildings, that runs towards people screaming, that runs towards traffic accidents. It's just, there's a group of us who,
gut instinct.
That's right. It's an inherent instinct to do that. And that's, like I said, it's an inherent instinct. And then you take those people and you say, no, you're damaged. You can't do that. You need to sit back. I mean, you're not setting someone up for success at all.
You're trying to deprogram them from what they've been programmed to do for years without giving them a reason why. I remember being an infantry person and then getting out of the military and going into a job like being a security guard even. It's like day and night, you know, like you go from being in firefights and combat and being, you know, in a life or death situation to standing in a doorway for 8 hours a day with complete silence, checking somebody's ID. You know, it's just complete opposites. And it's hard to be able to do that, you know, and that transition I feel like that is a big part of what happens to a lot of veterans when they get out. And I've actually talked to psychologists who talk about that too, how when we're in service, we're doing something that we feel like is super important to the world. You know, like you were flying on missions. I worked at the White House guarding the president. And then we go from doing whatever was important in the military to doing some basic job after we get out. It's not the same, you know, and that really affects us.
Then, well, I was going to say then you discovered music, but it sounds like music has been a big part of your life. And I've been kind of like leading up to the reveal, but you found therapy, you found your answer in art and creativeness. Let's just talk about it. Tell me how music helped you.
So I've been doing music since I was in high school. No, actually elementary school. I started playing drums in 5th grade. And so when I got out and I had all the issues that I had and I started getting counseling after everything happened with my PTSD, my therapist asked me about that. She said, tell me about who you were before you joined the military. So I told her about being a musician and how I was in drumline in high school and I started playing drums and I was a singer and I was in gospel choir and music was a part of my life. And she said, you know, you can use that as a form of therapy for your issues, right? And I said, I had no idea because I had never thought of it as a form of therapy. So she taught me about the science behind adrenaline and how, you know, using that nervousness that a lot of performers get before they go up on stage to do a concert in a positive way and taking that adrenaline and that energy and doing something with it instead of just letting it sit there. And then also using songwriting as a form of expression to get thoughts and things off my chest, how doing those would be therapeutic for me. And so I took the advice and I ran with it. And I started using my abilities in music as a form of therapy. And then what I ended up doing was using some of the signing bonus that I got from the Army to actually purchase my own recording studio equipment. So I put together a recording studio in my own apartment, started writing music, started recording music, and it started to work. I started to get all the thoughts off my chest in my songs. I started to take that nervous adrenaline rush that I would get before and after a concert and turn it into excitement and energy, positive energy. And so I started to find ways within music to fight my PTSD through music.
That's incredible. And I've seen your videos and stuff. They're great quality production. Do you hire out the filming, or do you do the filming yourself? Tell me about that part.
So no, I actually have a videographer who I hire to do all my videos. I might be doing another video in the near future. So yeah, the Gunshots video was done by him. And
that's the one I saw.
Yeah. So Gunshots was definitely done by him. Gunshots is like my baby. It was I wrote the video. I wrote out all the scenes for the video, minus the classroom stuff. TMR did the classroom stuff. But the scene in the store with the mug dropping and the guy hiding behind the counter, I picked that location. I wrote out that scene. I cast all the characters. I directed it. Me and TMR did the song. The song was recorded in my recording studio here in Pomona. So I'd say 90% of it, 95% of it was done by me. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of that song and that video, is because I did most of it on my own. It was my creation from the jump. And then TMR got involved, and I asked him to come on board, and he helped me out with a lot of it. And between the two of us, we got it done. And that song ended up being one of the best things that's ever happened to me in recent years.
Yeah. Something about creating, something about, it's very, very common in post 9/11 veterans. I mean, I can't think off the top of my head. I'm thinking, any previous veteran famous person. I know they're out there. Chris Christopherson's one. Chuck Norris is one, right? Okay, whatever.
Right.
But they had to have a creative outlet 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, was very difficult. You either had to have the money or you had to have the time. Technology has allowed really anyone. You said earlier that you do a lot of recording on your phone. Anyone with a phone, and everyone's got one, to actually produce something. And then not only produce it, let's say if 20 years ago you make a mixtape, you might get it out to your friends, you might get it out to a party, but now with like YouTube and Vimeo, you can put it out and the entire world can see it.
Exactly.
That's an amazing thing that we have today. And then also, not only that, but you're connecting with other veterans. Yeah, so I met TMR that way. I met TMR, which is the Marine rapper, through Facebook, and then I met him through Veteran Television. Yeah. The owner of Veteran Television connected us while I was filming with Veteran Television, and he was also filming with them. Oh, okay. Did you do any of their shows? Yeah. I'm actually one of the main characters in A Grunt's Life. Oh, and really? I performed, and then I performed on the first season of Kill Die Laugh. I performed on 6 episodes of Kill Die Laugh. I mean, that's a perfect example. I mean, Vet TV, what Donnie did there, just bringing creative people together for major project. And it's not, I think the good thing about it is, you know, unless you're like a Matt Best or the Range 15 guys, but even them, it's catered to veterans. It's not catered to civilians. It's all about making each other laugh and connecting with each other. It is. And that's why I love it, because there wasn't anything like that before they jumped on that ship. There was no specific network or place for TV shows that are specifically for veterans, only for veterans. So the feeling you get when you've created something and you've put it out in the world, you've put your time into it, and then you go live. Here it is. How therapeutic is that? That was amazing. It literally was like a weight being lifted off my shoulders, because Gunshots, for example, was the first time that I was ever able to combine my musical talents with my experience as a combat vet with PTSD and tell that story through music. So to get that out there through not only the song, but also the video, was extremely therapeutic, because it was the first time that I was able to tell my personal story about one of the things that I went through. I remember prior to that, I was dumped by a girl
because we had been dating for about 2 months, and 4th of July came around, and we were walking around her neighborhood out on the streets with her son, and a couple of fireworks went off near me, and I freaked out because to me it sounded like gunshots. And so she dumped me because of the fact that I was a combat vet with PTSD, and she told me that she didn't want to date a guy with PTSD, a veteran like that. And so for a while I was hiding it, and I was scared to talk about it and scared to let people know that I was in that condition. And so to be able to get it off my chest through music and through the video, and then get all the positive feedback, was extremely therapeutic, because not only did I feel like it was getting something off my chest, but it was also acceptance by the community and by civilians alike, because not only did I get it out, but people liked it and people were responding in a positive way to it. And that was incredible.
What do you think would have happened had you not had that outlet?
To be 100 and honest with you, I probably would have been one of the 22, because I wouldn't have known another way to get my experiences off my chest and to use something as a form of therapy. I mean, I also use fitness a little bit. Like, I like to run and go to the gym and stuff, but I needed something more than that. That was helping a little, but I needed something on top of that to add to my therapy. And it was the music that was that final piece that I needed.
So, ready for the rundown. So, name something that a civilian would never know about serving in the military.
All the gay humor. that joining as a man, joining the military will make you do some of the gayest stuff you've ever done, even though you're straight. That's funny.
What is the best item available in an MRE?
Spaghetti. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. The old spaghetti MREs. I used to love those.
Fill in the blank. The Marines do blank better than all other branches.
Everything.
That's fine. Marines always seem to go with that answer. The Army does blank better than all branches.
Nothing.
My last interview was with Chad Jukes. He lost his leg in somewhere in Iraq, and he ended up climbing Mount Everest. And I asked him the same question. He had the same answer. Okay, John Rambo or Gunnery Sergeant Highway?
Gunnery Sergeant Highway.
Best male vocalist of all time?
Tank.
Tank?
Yeah. He's a modern R&B singer.
Now I have to look him up. He's the best of all time.
In my opinion, yeah. He's my idol. He's the one that I've looked up to for the majority of my R&B career. So.
Wow, now I have to look him up. All right, so where can folks check you out?
So the main places that I go are Facebook and Instagram, and then I have a website. So on Facebook, you can just look me up if you just search for Elliott McKenzie. Mm-hmm. It's ELLIOTT, so 2 L's and 2 T's, and then McKenzie is MCKENZIE. I have a page, and then I also have a personal profile. You can send me a friend request, I'll add you, or you can like my page. On Instagram, it's Elliott_McKenzie. The spelling is the same, 2 L's and 2 T's, and Elliott_McKenzie. And then my website is just ElliottMcKenzie.com.
Okay. And I'll link all that in the show notes. Make sure we get it on there. And what's next? What's your next big project?
My next big project is finishing my album. My album is called Therapy Session. I'm hoping to have it out this year. And then I'm planning on doing a few more music videos for songs that are going to be on the album.
Awesome. Are you going to direct and do all that?
Yeah. I'm going to do the same thing I did for Gunshots. I'm going to direct them. I'm going to write the scenes. I'm going to write the treatment. I'm going to cast, because this stuff is near and dear to my heart. So I want to make sure that it all goes the right way. It ends up just as good as the Gunshots video.
Yeah, well, hey, Elliott, thank you for coming on. It was fantastic. Great. I think we talked about a lot of cool stuff here. We touched on some things that I never even considered when I wrote up the questions. But thank you for coming on, because it's folks like you that take your time to talk to me, that's going to make this a success. And I am, unlike my last podcast, I'm going to push this thing as hard as I can. I'm not giving up until we reach a lot of people.
Well, thank you. That's the goal.
All right.
I'm glad to be here. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. And I'll keep in touch.
Okay, most definitely.
All right. Take care, Elliott.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to 21 Gun. For more information on the podcast, visit 21gun.net. Spell it out, 21gun.net. If you're interested in getting in touch with me, shoot me an email, kevin@21gun.net. Again, spell it out, kevin@21gun.net. Thanks again for listening. Till next time.